Hello, welcome to Gender and Censorship. I'm Jasmine.
I'm Bailey. It's great to see you again. I'm Weiwei. In the last episode, we focused on media censorship in China and found that this strict media censorship limits the presentation of diverse and complex images of women. Today, we will use Australia, the country we studied in, as a case study to analyze how media censorship in this nation affects our understanding of gender. Let's share our experiences of using media in Australia. Let me share first. After coming to Australia, the biggest differences is that many social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter can be opened directly without using VPN, which is much more convenient than in China. However, I seldom use those media platforms. I'm still more used to using Chinese media platforms. I think it's probably because I've been in China for the last 18 years and I've gotten used to not using those programs. The censorship in China is strict, but you can still see some discussions about gender on the internet. So I'm not more biased towards using Australian media.
I started using a VPN to search for movies on YouTube before I came to Australia. I found that many movies are not available in China or are censored. I would go to YouTube in order to watch the full version. After coming to Australia, I can see various types of movies more conveniently, so that I can better appreciate and understand the works of different cultures, especially some foreign movies. Their styles and expressions are very different from the traditional Chinese culture, which broaden my horizons in the process of watching them. Australia's censorship system is quite different from China's. Instead of outright banning films, it uses a film classification system overseen by the Australian Classification Board. This system characterizes films according to age appropriateness, such as G for all ages, PG parental guidance, M recommended for ages 15 and above, MA 15 plus restricted to audiences 15 years and older, and R18 plus restricted to adults only. Unlike China's strict censorship, which removes or bans controversial content, Australia's system provides audiences and parents the freedom to decide what is appropriate. Even so, Australia's system does impose restrictions on films featuring extreme violence, drug use, or sexual abuse, sometimes requiring cuts or edits. However, the emphasis is more on classification than outright censorship. This allows room for more open discussions around topics like gender, sexuality, and female autonomy, which might not be possible in more restrictive media environments like China.
Speaking of film classification, I recently watched an Australian film called Head On, which is a perfect example of how Australia handles sensitive themes. The film follows a young Greek Australian man navigating life in Melbourne, and it explores topics like homosexuality, gender identity, race, and drug use. While the movie includes explicit sexual and violent scenes, it wasn't banned. Instead, it was classified as R18 plus, meaning only adults over 18 could watch it.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Head On. The fact that it wasn't banned despite its bold content shows the flexibility of the Australian classification system. The film's deep exploration of youth identity and multiculturalism allowed it to be publicly screened, despite its sensitive themes. In China, a film like this might never make it to cinemas, as these themes could be viewed as challenges to social order and might face heavy censorship. Scholar Jennifer Fay in The Ecologies of Film Noir mentions that while censorship may be framed as protective, it often erases the complexity and independence of female characters. This is clearly seen in the comparison between Lost Caution and Head Up. The former was banned in China due to its portrayal of female desire, while the latter, exploring male identity, was allowed to be screened in Australia. This double standard highlights how censorship systems can carry underlying biases toward gender expression. And feminist scholar Rebecca Stranger argues that true female liberation involves allowing women to express themselves in media, regardless of whether these expressions conform to traditional norms. This means that censorship should not be used as a tool to limit women's portrayal, but rather efforts should be directed toward creating a media environment that respects diversity and inclusivity. Strict content censorship has the potential to create mistrust of government. and media organizations as people do not see the full picture of events and rely on censored pieces of information. Although Australia's censorship is more diverse and liberal than China's media censorship, it may also come with different levels of risk. Such a system is designed to protect underage viewers from inappropriate content, while ensuring that adult viewers are exposed to a wider range of freedom of expression. So, what else is at risk?
I think I can answer that question. According to a book called Globalization of Media, Understanding Media and Culture, technological developments have allowed the free flow of information and culture around the globe, connecting people all over the world. But it's mainly Western, especially America, content that dominates this spread, and they are often strongly consumerist in nature. This has raised concerns that local culture may be replaced by American culture.
Yes, when I'm searching for movies, the list of movies on the Google page presents mostly Hollywood movies, which tends to marginalize the Australian homegrown films. Indeed, and on top of that, I found that even the head-on is restricted due to the film's explicit portrayal of sex, drug use, and self-harm. I was still able to source the movie easily on the internet, and no restrictions or warnings about age appeared. In less regulated areas, it's easy for works to be downloaded and shared online, and these pirate copies can be distributed in various countries. I even found a Chinese version of the head-on movie on Google.
And how has Australia's hierarchically censored media affected and/or changed your understanding of gender in your media use during your time studying abroad?
For me, while it is true that Chinese censorship stopped my premature exposure to potential dangerous information and culture, it also closed me off from digging into the world and identifying with my own identity. Strict censorship creates a binary conception of gender, and it seems that if you step outside of the framework, you will be subject to some censure and disapproval.
I'm not sure. I agree with you that media censorship in China is indeed harsh, but you can't deny the presence of sexual minorities and feminism in Chinese social media. I'm passionate about content about anime, which I can also find on the Chinese web, and the discussion about female autonomy continues to rise. In contemporary times, anime has grown and established a unique identity that seamlessly bleeds with a variety of local and global media and celebrity cultures. It has evolved into a transnational, female-dominated manta fan culture.
These discussions certainly exist, but I have found that they are easily suppressed or even disappear in China. Danmei literature has been criticized by some for its exaggerated depiction of gender temperament. In an effort to control this phenomenon, the government has taken a variety of measures, such as taking down delayed adaptation from video platforms, blocking related novels on the internet, and deleting discussions on social media. These policies aim to preserve the existing heteronormative patriarchal social family system. Yes, as I mentioned in the last episode, the Chinese lesbian form of cinema disappeared. I think the Australian grading system, even though it has risks, largely reflects the advantages of such a system.
It really can't be denied that characters do present diversity in Australian movies. What's more is that while this content is subject to ratings, you are free to choose whether or not to watch this content as long as you meet the adult requirements.
Yes, like the movie head on we are talking about today. Even though I don't identify with these behaviors of his search for his own identity, I can still resonate with this. I really struggle with societal expectations, ego desires, and emotional challenges. It is exactly what I'm feeling right now.
Well, thanks for sharing. I can understand what you are trying to express. The last thing I would like to share is that it is the difference in censorship between China and Australia that I am now more able to quickly adapt and try to make sense in the differences.
I very much agree with you that the existence of differences can make the space we live in more diversified. And what we need to do is to keep receiving to understand, integrate, or transform in these differences. Yes, so that's what we are sharing today.
Thank you for listening, and we hope to receive more feedback to enrich the next episode, whether it be praise or criticism. We will see you next time.